Good afternoon for those folks on the East Coast of the U.S. and good morning for any folks joining us from APAC. Welcome to the 31st episode of Overdose and Chill. We are joined today by JD Klausner from Yotpo. So welcome, JD.
Hello. Thank you for having me. 31st episode.
31st.
In the next series, I hope to be in the first episode, but I'll take the 31st.
I will put you down for that. We started this sort of in Q2 of last year, sort of when COVID was starting to be a thing around the world, and we recognized that there started to be so much of this sort of like what I call sort of white noise content, that sort of 9 to 5 conference stuff, where it's those 30 webinar invites you get every day and just sort of ignore at this point. And what we recognize is that that's sort of what I call the 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. content was pretty much absent. So all those times where you're at a conference or on the road and you drop in for a drink somewhere and just join a conversation, they're always the most enlightening things for me, at least. So we decided to have sort of these ad hoc chats, no script, no preparation, just jump into it and chat as if we were at a bar or otherwise. So that was sort of the impetus for this series. So I appreciate it.
I love Overdose and I love to chill. So I just hope the guys in Australia and New Zealand have a nice cup of coffee.
Hopefully it's coffee. Here we can have our happy hour drink. I hope you've got yours. I've got mine. My leftover White Claw. Water, very nice. So as I said, this is unscripted. Anyone who is watching, feel free to drop questions in the comment section. We will get to those. But JD joined us from Yotpo as the director of partnerships, where he's been for, I think, going on 5 years now.
Yeah, I just passed my 5-year mark.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm curious. First, I'd love to understand. We've known each other for a few years now, and obviously, we've worked with Yotpo on a lot of projects for a while now. But can you tell us a little bit about sort of your background, sort of where you came from, where you've been? I actually did some LinkedIn stalking, and I'd forgotten you spent a lot of time in China in your career. So give us the JD story.
Yeah. So moral of the story: when you see someone view your profile under the name of Andrew Podkowitz, alarms should go off that you're going to be invited to some show. No, so I mean, I've been very fortunate to have like a very internationally exposed background. So I was born and raised in Belgium, but my mother is actually French and Costa Rican, and my father is Canadian and Israeli. So I grew up with family in all these different countries, and I have 4 passports. I hope the CIA or Mossad doesn't catch on to that, because I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's even legal.
It's a good thing we're not doing this live, right?
Yeah, you can X that out after. So I was born and raised in Belgium, and then I did my undergrad in the UK, where I actually did a whole music and business joint course. I thought I was going to go in the music industry, and then I realized music is better saved as a hobby than as a profession. Which a lot of people are crushing it in the industry, and it's changed so much in the last 15 years. But it just didn't feel right for me at the time, and so I was very lucky to, at the age of 21, make my way to Beijing to work in the diamond industry. So the reason why I lived in Belgium is because my father was a diamond trader. So I was son of a Israeli diamond trader in Belgium.
That's probably a unique thing in Belgium, right?
Yes, it's super unique. If you meet any Jewish person from Belgium, there's a 95% chance they were in the diamond industry. But that basically brought me to Beijing, where I started basically doing retail jewelry retail for a couple of years. And then I moved into advertising, where I moved to Shanghai. So in total, I spent almost 5 years in China. It was a really fun experience, but wasn't a very sustainable lifestyle. And I didn't want to be there super long term. And so that's what actually brought me to Israel after that, where I did my MBA in Tel Aviv, and I was always very fond of Israel because my father's Israeli, and growing up I used to go there a lot, and I loved the city, and the tech scene was blowing up. And so I did my MBA, and then that's where I met my wife, who's American. She was also just studying there, and everything kind of fell into place from that point onwards. I met Yotpo when we were just a small Series B startup of around 50 people, just an app on the Shopify store. And so
you might think that my favorite thing from Belgium is chocolate or fries, but in fact it is poirot. And I'm on a David Suchet kick, and we're watching some of the poirots. So that's my favorite Belgian thing right now.
That works too.
Oh, the beer's good too. There's some good Trappist beers up there. Very cool. So you ended up joining Yotpo. At the time, it was a relatively small niche tech company that, if I recall correctly, did really ratings and reviews. That's sort of where you guys were born out of now.
Our humble beginnings, yeah. Shopify App Store, BigCommerce App Store, but we were very much an app, month to month, self-service, and then we started gradually moving into becoming a more kind of SaaS-based like company with salespeople and client services, like more like the high-touch experience. We opened, and so when I joined, we had just hired our first batch of people in the New York office, which was WeWork, and yeah, now we're like 200 people in New York, which is crazy.
I remember at the time, I believe Itai was the rep or the partner rep in New York, and he came streaming into our office one morning with not the quietest guy in the world.
No.
Came in like a bat out of hell with a big box of donuts to teach us about Yotpo, and it was great. And I think one of the things that always sort of drew me to you guys, outside of the tech being good tech, is sort of the energy and sort of the people. Obviously, it's the people behind the tech, sometimes more so than the tech itself. But so I'm curious, as you moved into that role and you grew that team, and you guys expanded the feature set and offerings of the platform itself, and got into community Q&A and shoppable Instagram and stuff. What was sort of guided you, in your path to grow the Yotpos footprint globally, both from a personnel perspective as well as a client-based perspective?
Yeah, so North America, just like I'd say the vast majority of these really kind of software companies, the US is kind of always like the holy ground, that like the holy land in like software, in terms of if you can make
ironically, because Israel is.
Yes, I know, that was a religious joke, even though I'm not at all religious, but so that was kind of always like the premise in terms of like the area of focus. And obviously e-commerce North America, that's like a lot of the action happens here, but we still are very, very kind of engaged in growing the business and supporting merchants around the world. So we have around 30 people in the UK. We're opening our Australia office now, hiring a bunch of positions and a general manager. We have some really exciting plans for APAC. So we started off in North America, but now we've reached a point of maturity where it's truly a global business. And I've just been really lucky to sit at the front row seat, not just of like e-commerce and all the different players. And I was listening to a few people that joined my predecessors in Overdose and Chill, like Martin Bodie and Kevin Small, all these guys that are really at the forefront of the action of like what's going on in e-commerce. And I feel very blessed to have played a small role in that, but to be a part of that. And how it's really become like the global ecosystem of amazing companies and technologies and people that are, like you said, are driving these projects forward.
It's funny, as big as e-commerce is, and as big as it's gotten, certainly over the past year, and we'll talk about that in a second, it's really a small community. It's crazy, with the sort of folks moving from tech to agency to merchant, to brand side. I'm curious, we've seen so many techs try to break into the North American market, which certainly is a pretty big market, and fail, right? And just not do it effectively, and maybe get some big name client up front that they basically bought, and sort of try and carry that through. So what was your strategy to the North American market, the US market?
Customer acquisition, meaning start free, then go cheap, and then move upstream from there. So we started off as really just an SMB, literally an app on the Shopify App Store. And then as Shopify grew and these merchants grew, back in the day they were called like micro brands, and now then they became digitally native brands and D2C brands. But at the time, no one paid much attention to that in retail. And so again, right place, right time, but we focused on that segment, and we kind of, went upstream with the rest of the market. And I'd say, the fact that we're also VC funded and we just have very ambitious aspirations and a very kind of ambitious vision for the company and the platform, it's really kind of pushed us to lean into taking smart risks. So acquiring 2 companies. So we acquired Swell 2 years ago, and then we acquired SMS Bump this year. Both acquisitions moved us into totally different product verticals, but that really kind of helped us getting one step closer into becoming truly a multi-product platform. for an e-commerce marketing like solution for brands. And I think taking calculated risks, but at the right time. Like you can't, take 3 steps ahead if you don't have the basic foundations. And so these risks were taken, when we already had a pretty good, foothold in the U.S. market and teams and client services and operational, resources. So yeah, risk taking, I'd say, was probably like smart risk taking and kind of, not being scared to just bite off a little bit more than you can chew. Because we're always biting more than we can chew, always. But
I was gonna say, I love that you went there with the risk taking, and certainly, smart risk taking is certainly a big part of it. But certainly with the risk comes, things that don't pan out. So I'm curious, are you willing to talk about anything that you guys gambled on and it didn't pay off, and you sort of, helped inform future endeavors along those lines?
Yeah, totally. So, in the whole theme of like moving upstream, we always looked at, the enterprise, and the enterprise is where we want to be and where we need to be and where we need to invest resources. And, Shopify has moved upstream, Shopify Plus, of course, but enterprise, when you're talking billion-dollar businesses, of course, now there's, those worlds are colliding more and more now in terms of like these technologies supporting these types of companies. But 2 or 3 years ago, we just weren't ready from a product perspective, from a go-to-market perspective. And we just thought that by hiring the right types of senior leaders, hire Salesforce executives that can come and like plant the flag that we're an enterprise sales team, that would just solve it. And it really didn't, like to the point where we even like had a West Coast office, which was just an enterprise team in the West Coast.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize you guys had done that.
Yeah, it was actually in Salt Lake City in Utah. We had a team of like 10 people there, and it was a risk. And then we realized that very quickly that it just wasn't conducive to the way that merchants like to be engaged with and how we did business. And so very quickly we realized it just wasn't a good fit for us to kind of roll into that type of like that market at that time with that type of approach. So that's, we mess up every day in many ways, but this is what, like, I think one of the bigger wake up calls in terms of when you like hire a big team and just, hire them first and then figure it out. It's a little bit riskier. Like in Australia now, actually, we're doing it the right way, I think, where we were much more conservative about our investments there. And we wanted to see how much we could engage, from here, from the Tel Aviv office, from the London office. And now we're in a place where we know enough about the market, the people, the needs, to really be able to support them in a way that's like planned and trackable. And, it's in a much more sophisticated way than just, we'll do it and then figure it out later.
Yeah, well, that comes with experience and growth, right? When you go down take a few steps down one path and realize it's not the right path to go down. So, it's one of those things that you hear it all the time. I can't tell you how many calls I get on with folks who are interested in partnering up, or folks we're partnered with, and they say we're moving upstream, right? We're moving up market, we're going up market. We're enterprise solutions, and for us, and I think we sit in a relatively unique space in the ecom as a service provider. We have merchants who are startups, right? Who don't have a website yet. We have merchants who are enterprise. We have merchants everywhere in between. So when I had these conversations and someone goes, oh, well, if they're not doing at least $10 million online, they're not a good fit. And for me, I'm like, well, but does that mean I need an SMB solution, a mid-market solution, and an enterprise solution for our client base? Or do I just need a good, solid mid-market enterprise scalable solution that also offers a freemium or low-end model to onboard SMBs? Because if I have the choice of managing 3 partners or 1 partner, and that 1 partner can service the whole spectrum of merchants, that's the one I want, right? It's about who is the right fit for our client base. So that's one thing that you guys have sort of always done is still been able to handle as big as you guys get and as big as your merchants get. You still have a model that can support smaller merchants in a growth stage. That's I can't stress enough to SaaS folks and tech partners out there that how important that is for agencies like us.
Yeah, actually, I'll reciprocate the question. I feel like you guys are like an amazing, like very unique agency in terms of scale and ability, like to support global brands, big brands, smaller brands, basically multi-platform, multi-segment, multi-geography. What have been your biggest challenges, Andrew?
Oh man, I did not sign up for this. This is supposed to be a one-directional conversation.
Interrogation in a second, because I'm in a hot seat all of a sudden.
You flipped the script on me. So what have been some of the challenges? certainly, for me, currently, as we talk about our global expansion, and adding people and adding offices, oftentimes where there are offices that currently exist that come on board and join Overdose, there are, historically disparate marketing strategies, siloed partnership initiatives, right? Because all these offices have their own local partnerships. So sort of wrapping my head around who in fact our partners currently are, who they ought to be, who can be a global partner for us, who can be a local regional partner, because obviously not all tech services is needed everywhere. That's on the partnership side. On the Overdose scaling globally side, I think it's, merchants are merchants everywhere, right? And for us, we are relationship driven, right? We recognize that there are a dozen other agencies in the world who can execute as well technically as we can, right? We're not unique in what we do for merchants. Where we feel we're unique is the people we have and our approach and our personalized approach to the market. So, relationships are what drive us, and I think drive our partnerships and our business. And when you enter into an engagement with an agency partner for 6, 12, 18, 24 months, you damn well better like the people you work with. And you better enjoy getting on the phone daily and weekly, and really, being productive in a relationship that you enjoy getting up and having every day. So, I think the challenge, that wasn't really the challenge, it's actually what we do. But the challenge being, as you onboard new offices and onboard new personnel, ensuring that we have that cohesive message across our offices and going to market with that approach.
And I will say,
any more questions?
No, I feel like, because Overdose's leadership team, you also take very smart, calculated risks and big ones, acquiring companies, moving to different geographies. And Todd and Nikolai and an amazing team, leadership team. And it's always this, I always think about this because we work obviously super closely with agencies, but as an agency owner, how do you balance supply with demand and scaling versus supporting existing business and hiring and systems and processes? It's very delicate and very fragile, but if you can strike that balance, which you guys are and doing amazingly, I tip my hat off.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words. I think where agencies often fall down is they take on projects anticipating they'll be able to scale to support those projects, right? Overextending yourself, filling the pipeline, saying, here's a big wave of leads, let's get them all, let's sell them all, let's lock them in, and then we'll figure out how to resource for them, right? So I think ensuring that you are only taking on the work that you can actually execute on. And fortunately, we're at a spot in our evolution where we're spoiled a little bit. We have the luxury of, unlike when we were all small and having to hustle for every job we got, we can say, this is not the right project for us, or we don't have the capacity to do this project right now. So let's be transparent and say, we can't take you on right now, but in 3 months we can, kind of thing. So I think just being thoughtful and transparent about what you can reasonably execute on at a high level and execute at 100% on all projects instead of 80% on many. So I guess I'll ask you the same question. Sorry, go ahead.
You got to keep that hustle though. Can't get too comfortable.
Got to keep that hustle. It's not about about stagnating and sitting back, but it's about making sure you are engaging in the right places with the right merchants, and taking on the projects where you can really impact the business, right? And not taking on a project just to be an order taker to execute tasks the merchant needs. That's not where folks like us are best utilized. So I guess, on your side, taking on Swell, when you guys acquired Swell, a loyalty rewards platform to get this sort of full integrated SaaS solution that now is way more robust than it used to be. Swell was around for a while. Swell was, a very strong, at least I remember in the Shopify space, was sort of the go-to loyalty rewards platform for Shopify back in the day. So when you took them on, all of a sudden you had this existing entity that had existing partnerships with existing agencies and existing tech partners. How did you reconcile sort of where Yotpo fit, where Swell fit, and as you merge the two programs, who were still the right partners for you guys as you set your sights on, global growth?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Any like post-merger experience, whether it's on the receiving side or like the actual company that gets acquired. Sorry, whether you're the company that acquires or the company that gets acquired. Whether you acquire a 10-person company or a 50-person company or a 200-person company, it's like always like high friction, people, processes, systems, partners, customers, a contract, like agreements. So there's always like a certain margin of friction that you just need to like accept that, okay, this is going to happen. Really luckily though, for both the acquisitions we've had, they were very, very different in context. But Swell, we had like the vast majority of their partners were our partners. And so there was a really healthy overlap of agencies and tech partners. And in our whole due diligence process in terms of like when we wanted to like, assess that area and, this specific player, our partners played a role in that, in validating both those. Is loyalty a good place to go, and how's the Swell team? How are they to work with? So, our partners played an active role in that process. Obviously, not everyone, but and all within like a controlled forum. But it was relatively okay because the Swell team is amazing. They did a really phenomenal job with their partners, especially on the agency side, because there's a lot of like customization needed for loyalty, and it's not just it's like you can go in a plug and play approach, but the more input you have, like and the more thought out your program is, the better. And so agencies usually like to play a role in that. So they did a really great job with the Shopify agencies. And what was very interesting though is moving away from the Shopify ecosystem, because they were pretty much like a Shopify centric solution. And so what point is the product ready to go to the Salesforce agencies, to the Magento agencies, to the BigCommerce agencies? And that's always like, where you're like 3 steps ahead. The teams are ready, the teams are excited, our partners are excited, but the product just isn't there yet. We have to rebuild the integrations, the API, and reduce the friction from like a merchant onboarding experience if you're not on Shopify. So I'd say that was more of like the friction around moving away from the Shopify ecosystem and the agencies that wanted to kind of integrate that product that wasn't on Shopify. And we're having the same thing now actually with SMS, where it's pure SMS, pure Shopify. It was like SMS Bump was a pure Shopify like solution, and now we're in the process of making it kind of a little bit more flexible integration-wise to be able to integrate with all our different, because we're platform like the platforms play a very important role in Yotpo's world, but we're not only tied to one platform. But it's critical for merchants of all, from all areas to be able to integrate our solutions and have like a good experience. So yeah, it's been, I even forgot your question. What was your question?
The challenges of integrating partnership ecosystems across. You answered it. It was a good answer. I find it interesting, certainly a technology can survive being platform specific in the Shopify world, right? Shopify is big enough that you can be a exclusive Shopify tech partner and be very successful. But it's interesting as you look at techs that have been aligned with platforms, and then trying to bridge that gap across to another platform. It's certainly easier for those folks in the open source space who have been aligned with, say, a Magento, to cross over into a BigCommerce or Shopify, because they are, they'd worked with an open source platform. It's a more robust sort of thing. But when you look at Shopify techs, I've always found it much more challenging for them to make that leap, and for people to trust them out of the gate and be like, oh wait, I'm on Magento. Wait, but you're a Shopify technology. And so how did you guys overcome that sort of that connection and break away from that and have the world sort of accept that Swell works is truly platform agnostic now?
Yeah, it's many different, like it's lots to unpack on that question, but there's a lot of it ties to, okay, obviously once your product is good and you have happy customers, like you have to start there. You can't start, banging the drum and promoting the hell out of it if you're not ready, really. And that's, I think, tying back to like one of our main learnings, like not just doing things in like a smart way. And so,
are you suggesting folks in technology celebrate the features and functionality of their technology before they're actually working?
You got to fake it till you make it, right? I mean, it's a human instinct to do that. Like even, it's just Yeah, I feel like it's a very natural thing where you always want to push yourself one step forward, but like how big is that gap? And so we've stretched that gap. It's happened, like obviously it happens to everyone, and so we quickly learn and adapt. But so agencies, I think, played a really big role in that, because once Swell was like like agnostic ready, and it took a long time. It wasn't just done overnight. It was like a year and a half long process, because we needed to make sure the integration was good, that we had customers that were onboarded, that were happy, that we're seeing value, that results were good. But once the wheels are in motion on like a product level, then it's all about leveraging the ecosystem. Case study with the top partner, case study with the platform, case study with obviously the great brand and the platform and the agency, and then kind of foundationally building up upon that. And then once you kind of have one great agency that likes the product, and you can use that as like kind of the flagship, case study, then kind of expanding from there. And then it slowly creates like a domino effect of expanding your products across your different solution partners or agencies. But it takes time. Like it's really important to be patient with that stuff, because you don't want to put your partners in a position where, let's just say, Andrew, let's just say we're flagging you like crazy to implement our next solution, but your team is like, guys, this solution is not ready. Like there's only so much I can push you. So it's on us to kind of gauge when, we want to position you guys for success as the agencies. But that takes time.
No, I appreciate that. And I think you're sort of hitting on something that I've always felt very strongly about, which is the partnership ecosystem is a slow burn, right? It is a lot of time invested, a lot of relationships built, sort of planting the seeds and the roots to, for lack of a less cheesy analogy, planting that tree that will continue to bear fruit in the long term, right? Versus sort of what we see often with folks trying to break into at least North America is sort of a quick win mentality, right? Where, where are the leads? Where's my lead? Send us leads, sort of thing. Let's get those wins. Let's, sell this thing. I really need it. Versus build that relationship and build that trust and have it be sort of the gift that keeps on giving once you have that relationship established. So, the partnership world is complex, and it does require a real concerted effort to grow it versus, it's a marathon, not a sprint, certainly.
100%. And you have to earn that trust. It doesn't happen overnight. You earn it by being responsible and, asking. You have to give before you get always, and you give value and whatever that value is. It can be support, it can be proactivity, it can be, there's a million and one ways to give value, but I'm always a big believer in you have to kind of give before you ask or get. And trust earned. Like it doesn't, you don't just buy trust or get it overnight.
Yeah. So I'm curious to that end, as you guys grow and continue to grow globally, and folks may be interested in partnering up with you guys, what is it that you guys look for when you're sort of vetting partners and their potential partners and trying to find, the right folks in market as you guys expand into new territories?
I guess define partners, because we have many different partner types.
So what kind of partners do you have?
Okay, so we have a handful of different ones, which makes it really fun because they're very different in terms of areas. So the agencies are obviously kind of like the biggest driver of growth for us in terms of on the commercial side. So we have SIs, like design development agencies across all platforms, and then the digital marketing agencies, really kind of the B2C marketing experts, and they're the ones who are going to look at reviews as an opportunity to help improve SEO, or look at loyalty as a way to help improve customer lifetime value. So the agency segment is probably like the biggest one in terms of like revenue contributions and like internal resources. Like we have 12 or 13 partner managers globally that are just working with agencies. Then we have the platforms who are hands down the most important players in our world. So we have to make sure we have great integrations with those platforms, and that those relationships are also nurtured, and that we're able to keep a pulse on trends, movements, opportunities, threats, competitors, and everything gravitates around the platform. So if you are disconnected from the platforms, you'll be disconnected from the agencies for sure, assuming the agencies work on those platforms. So that's the second kind of really meaty area, and a very exciting one, which touches on strategic agreements, product integration. So for example, we are natively built in Magento. So that was a great opportunity for us to kind of.
Oh, and congrats on that, by the way. That was over the past year or so, right? That was
that was an awesome milestone for us, and we'd love to. I mean, this is like an approach that obviously each platform has their own strategy and approach, but we love doing these types of things. And anyway, so that was an interesting milestone. And then, so you have the agencies, the platforms, the tech partners. So we have the Klavios, the Klarnas, the Nostos. Those are usually the funnest people to hang out and drink with at conferences, and the ones who probably will pay your bill if you're sponsoring an event. And so we have integrations with
out all the trade secrets, JD. Come on.
Yeah. Sorry, I gotta save some for the next 30-second episode. So we have great integrations with these guys and across different verticals, and those verticals evolve over time, always as the company grows. And then we have like strategic alliances, like just different non-out-of-the-box partnerships. So, for example, we have a really cool partnership with UPS, where they have a partner program that it's like they have a fund, and they basically encourage their customers to invest in technologies that help them, do better online, because the more sales, the more boxes they ship. So it's a great partnership with UPS where they're recommending Yotpo to their clients, and it's like it's a very interesting, a lot in the background, but that's a new one, and that kind of falls into our world as well. And then we dabble a little bit with like the venture capital guys, the private equity guys who are in like the e-commerce space, but they naturally overlap with the platforms and the agencies. That's basically it.
And that's all you manage, just those 15 different groups of partners?
Yeah, that's it.
Very cool. All right. A couple of folks are saying hi, by the way, so I will show those. Victoria saying hi, and you've got our old friend Tom Mucklow saying hi, who has gone from the addressee locate space to being a merchant unto himself, selling healthy start today breakfast and other products. So a little plug for Mr. Mucklow.
Convinced we can bring Tom back into the ecosystem as one of us.
When he left, it was tragic, and maybe one day we can bring him back. Cool. So all right, so switching gears a little bit to like e-commerce explicitly. What, I don't want to say the old what did you guys see in 2020, but maybe over the past month, sort of into the holidays, over the holiday hump into January, what are you guys seeing on the UGC shoppable social loyalty rewards space? And I'd say, going forward into 2021, what are you guys anticipating, and where are you guys sort of focusing? And we have a little another comment here from Ms. Martina England, who has a new career ahead of her at a very cool agency. So
future request. Next time we should be able to like pull these people in for like 5 minutes, like so they can jump in.
That would be great, a little round robin chat.
Yeah, we
can. I'll look into that. Actually, that'd be fun. Do a rapid fire question answer.
So to answer your question, well,
what did you guys see over the holidays, and where do you think it's going to be carrying forward into 2021?
Yeah, so 2020 was just insane, obviously, for everyone. Everyone was like, "Oh, where's this going to go? How is this like?" I think it's fair to say we're all really lucky to be in this industry. That's I hate to say it, but e-commerce has benefited from COVID in many, many ways.
Well, we're certainly, in a world in which there's so much uncertainty, we are all very fortunate to be in a space that's been in such high demand, and also, not just that, but being able to actually help people, right? Actually help folks who were struggling and had to pivot in the middle of COVID to new strategies it was actually really rewarding for us to be able to help people through that. So anyway, back to
major wake up call, like what really matters, like it's the people, and like everything else is like fluff and noise and whatever. But so totally aligned on your comment there. And the big realization for us is like, so because of that whole trend, e-commerce has always been a competitive environment, but it's more so now than ever for brands to capture the attention of their consumers. Consumers are home all the time. They're on their phones a lot more than usual. They don't buy the same stuff they buy. Like, I'm probably wearing this hoodie 3 days a week. I'm sure you are too, I think.
Only because I get all my clothes from conferences, because they're all tech swag. And now that we haven't had conferences in a year, I'm there.
So I think like just the short end of the answer is personalization really matters, meaning standing out and really investing in like a one-on-one relationship. And I think brands now have the confidence and the appetite to build more intimate relationships with their consumers, which is why like SMS has been blowing up like crazy. Like it's not a new technology by any means. Like SMS has existed for the last 20 years, but the fact that brands feel comfortable engaging with consumers through this channel is a reflection of just their desire and confidence and like delivering a more one-on-one relationship. And I think that's important. And we see that also, of course, with loyalty. Like customization and loyalty is huge. Like you don't like two brands that are in the same space, if they'll do anything possible to make sure that they maximize the lifetime value of their customers. They keep these people engaged. That these people become a part of the brand. And so customization, personalization, and how you're messaging, engaging your consumer.
It's interesting you say that. I mean, there's always been, as new techs roll out and new features roll out, there's always, you sort of segment out merchants into, your fast fashions, your luxuries, and everything in between. And it's always sort of the high-end luxury folks who tend to be more resistant to some of the newer techs out there when it comes to ratings and reviews. Does it dilute the brand? Loyalty rewards or pay over time options. What we've seen a lot of in the past year are these brands starting to actually welcome and adopt these techs. Welcoming the Klarnas in, saying, "Yeah, we will absolutely offer a pay over time option, even though we are a high end fashion brand." So sort of it's been an interesting cross pollination of techs that historically been for lower end brands that are now being adopted across the board. So.
For sure. Subscription, same thing. Like people, like everyone's lifestyle is kind of on hold. So you're going to need the same amount of you're buying every month. Another area
well,
is very
you've
cool.
got that aspect of it, which is what you need every month, you're going to get it. But also, if you don't have to go to the store for it, why go to the store for it?
For sure.
Get that home water delivery, get that toilet paper delivery, get whatever it is. You want to minimize your exposure out there. So we've absolutely seen a massive explosion in subscription as well. On the SMS front, can you talk a little bit more about SMS, because it's an area where I spent a lot of time over the past couple of months just doing research on it and understanding all the sort of players out there. Why do you think SMS is such an effective channel right now for communication with customers and for marketing?
Yeah, I know. So it's a great question. SMS is an interesting one. It's a little bit of like a catch-22, because the more you do it, the less effective it is. But yeah, so it's all about how smart you can be with it. Because let's just say I blast you, Andrew, even me as JD, if I text you like 20 times a week with different things, partner related, but you're gonna be like, who the hell is this guy? Why does he I don't even know what he wants from me. And we have a relationship. But imagine if I'm a brand and you bought toilet paper for me a month ago and I'm blasting you with promotions and text. So it's really a balancing act of what is too much and how to make it like really like a good experience with the customer, meaning you're giving them information, like you're giving them value, really. And so for us, it's been really interesting to kind of see how creative brands can get, with conversational flows, and you can A/B test things, and you can basically really get creative on like how to engage with customers, like a hybrid between email and basically live chat, but in SMS in someone's pocket, and open rates are like insane. And people just are willing to engage if it's smart, not if it's like spammy. And so the ability to kind of understand on a little bit more of a sophisticated level, like how do you want to engage your customers and enable a conversation and not just an email promo or an SMS promo, I think is a big.
We're also in a world now where, I think the numbers, and don't quote me on it, if email open rates are somewhere between, 10 to 20, sometimes up to 30%, and click-through rates can be up to 5 if you're lucky. SMS open rates are still upwards of, 95% at a minimum.
Yeah.
So it's remarkable, how engaged folks are on their phones and through SMS. So
frankly, little secret, like I've been more addicted to my phone now in COVID than ever before. Like, truthful question. In this conversation, how often have you checked your email or checked your phone?
In this conversation, I checked my phone once because it lit up next to me. I tend to be super engaged in the thing that I'm doing. But that said, when my phone dies or I have to plug it in, I think like everyone else, I have a mild panic attack. right? I mean, the number of times you don't realize how often you check your phone until it's not on you.
It's crazy,
right? And when it's not on you, you like, oh my God, you keep reaching for your pocket, you keep reaching next to you. So yeah, I think irrespective of us being in lockdown, being work from home, where we actually have our laptops in front of us, you know, our phones are you know, are part of us now. It's just sort of how we live.
I imagine it vibrate in my pocket. I'm like, oh, it's vibrating. It's like,
oh I get phantom vibrations all the time. Right? My phone could be across the room, and for some reason, I still feel vibration. It's weird.
Great minds, Andrew.
A couple random questions for you. Do you have a dog?
I have 2 babies, so I'm passing on the dog for now.
Did you ever have a dog?
Yeah, I had a Jack Russell growing up.
Okay.
For 17 years, and my mom.
How often did you give your dog filtered water? Never. I'm doing a straw poll here. I have some home issues to deal with, and one of them is, does the dog need filtered water? It's a debate. It's a fight I'm having.
So what's the hypothesis?
I don't think dogs need filtered water. You know, for all the animal lovers out there, I think, you know, I drink tap water. The dog drinks tap water.
The dog drinks filtered water.
But I digress. So anything else? You were sort of, you know, hitting the end mark here and wrapping up. You know, anything that you think is sort of, you know, a pivotal thing for 2021, things that you think merchants or tech folks really gotta focus on going forward?
Yeah, it's something. Sorry?
I know it's a very broad question.
Oh yeah, totally. And you know what? I like it because there's no right or wrong answer. So thank you for letting me. No, I
Give
think,
us a prediction.
No, for me, like, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, it's kind of like this COVID Zoom fatigue. Like, everyone talked about it 6 months ago, but like, it's really real now in terms of how many Zoom happy hours can you do? And I know that it depends where you are in the world, where some areas are more relaxed about COVID. Like, I'm in Miami, and COVID doesn't exist in Florida. Like, it doesn't exist. So
I heard that.
In restaurants, if you want to live your life totally normally, you can. We don't, because like whatever. But the whole, like, how do you keep your partners engaged and these relationships fun? Like, how do you keep the fun in this work? Because a huge part of what I loved and still love about, you know, this industry is the people, the events, the engagements, and then, you know, of course, there's all these like commercial, you know, follow-throughs and outputs from all these different interactions. But it's all business and no pleasure in this environment. It's like, how many hours a day are you just sitting there looking at the screen, doing Zoom calls with people over the world? Shut it down, and you realize you're still at home where you were this morning.
Yeah.
Last night.
Yeah. The work-life balance is tough because you don't have a change of scenery, you know?
Totally. And so, you know, when you manage a team, when you manage multiple teams, when you have kids or a dog, like, how do you balance that and make it fun? And how do you manage change, new processes, how do you train partners? How many lunch and learns can you do virtually now? Agency people, I mean, they're tired, they're, you know, overworked.
We just want our lunch, man. We just want our lunch.
Lunch, and it's harder to do lunch and learns now, basically. So there's no more fun. Now it's, I got to send you an Uber gift card. No fun in that.
Yeah. Well, the reality is, you know, and one of the reasons why, you know, we sort of kicked off this series of Overdose and Chill is, you know, I've gotten more value out of a one-on-one conversation like this with someone like you know, at a conference than I've gotten out of doing, you know, a lunch and learn with 30 folks on a partner team, right? It's you know, it's I don't know how to explain it, but it's just there's more value in the one-on-one connections you have with folks than you know, the passing, fleeting. Oh yeah, we're partners with them. I haven't talked to them in 6 months, but we're partners. It's like, well, are you really partners then if you haven't talked in 6 months? But I digress again. And, you know, I think that's all I've got. And I know we sort of run over the time, so I appreciate you sticking around late on a Friday.
I have one really important question.
I have one more for you also, but I'll let you go first.
What is this change of plan? What's happening? Where's my new invite? When's the wedding? I need fun.
That's the new save the date. It is we as you know, we got married back in December, and we pushed the reception to December of next year. So we are working through details there. We'll be sending updates to folks with actual invites. I know it's been 2 years in the making, but we'll get it done. Thanks for calling me out on that, man. So something I like to ask every week, and when I say every week, I mean this is the first time I'm doing it, but I'll do it going forward. Curious to hear, what's your pet peeve?
Wow. You know what? I have a really high tolerance for stuff, people, and like I like to think of myself as empathetic and understanding. So pet peeve, it's a strong word. I don't really have any, I think.
Whoa, you're a better man than I then.
I guess I have to ask you. You must have a bunch.
I've got pet peeves. Now, I don't have many. I think one of the ones, it's just lack of attention to detail. Things that I see in the workplace, when I see, rampant typos in emails, when I see someone, when you're writing an email to someone, this is just me, not everyone does this, but you're writing an email to someone, you're putting their name in the address field, right? You're typing in their email address, or it's autofilled because it's in your address book. The person's name is literally 1 inch before you're writing hello. Put the person's name in, right? All these emails are like hi, comma, where it just goes right in. It's like, cool. Oh, this is, So just making every interaction you have with people personal, especially in a remote world where you're not in the office. Take the extra second to proofread your email. Make sure it makes sense, that it's not, grammatically all over the place. But that's my biggest pet peeve, is just attention to detail in communications.
I probably, considering we're in a virtual world and you probably get 1,000 emails a week, your pet peeves must like accumulate into like this big volcano of like.
Well, I love when I get on LinkedIn, someone cold outreaches and says, hi, Sarah. Well, I'm definitely not Sarah, but anyway. Cool, man. Really appreciate you joining. Always enjoy chatting with you. Always get tremendous value out of it. So appreciate you being willing to share this conversation, out in the world, out in the wild.
Likewise. And so I guess same time next week, episode 32.
Same time next week, man. And also a couple more folks, and if you can see in there, I know Bradley was kind enough to jump on the chat yesterday and then talk over LinkedIn. So I want to give him a little call out, the guys over at Klarna. So appreciate everyone, and then Alexander as well. So thanks everyone for the kind comments. It's always been great chatting with you, and we will chat again very soon.
All right.
JD, thanks very much, man.
Take care, guys.